and you'll see it translated as stay woke, which
Aha.
I feel like this is a word that some people hear and turn into all sorts of things. Is Jesus predicting the end of the world? I don't know. We'll find out on this episode, or at least in this text. Welcome to the Word Made Fresh. We're looking at Mark chapter 13, a couple sections here, verses 1 through 8, and then we skip a little bit and we go to verses 24 to 37. And have you read this text recently, Adrian? It's interesting. We got a lot of like, watch out, temples crumbling, end of. It seems ominous. Am I just reading it wrong? Help me out here.
Right. Oh, yeah. I've been actually sitting with it this week because I needed to come up with sermon titles for the next little bit. So, sitting with it a lot. It is certainly not a text that makes you think, oh, I know exactly where I'm going with this one. It's tough. Um, we're heading towards Jerusalem, and Jesus is letting people know what's coming. And this is sort of, when you say ominous, I think that's right. There is this metaphor of stones. We're kind of like, what exactly is going on here? There's this sort of threatening language of staying awake. You're like, I'm human. I have to sleep. What is Jesus talking about? I don't get to sleep anymore. And so, what to do with all of that? I think as we cut through the metaphor of the rocks, where we land, or the direction I think I'm going in, is what he says at the end is the rebuilding, which of course speaks to his resurrection and I think speaks to God's intention for humanity, which is that the last word for God, the last word for Jesus, is always life.
Hmm.
Despite the ominous language, despite the metaphor of destruction, in the end, life wins. I think I'm going
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Ooh,
It's
I
a little
like that. I like
pre-Easter.
that. And that's good just to look, yeah, we're still pre-Easter, but it fits with where we've seen Jesus in Mark. He's had three times where he's flat out told his disciples, "Hey, I'm going to Jerusalem. I'm going to die. They're going to kill me. It's not going to be great, but let's keep going." And then here he kind of does it with this even more grand language. It seems he's drawing on the whole stone that the builders rejected language from just a minute ago, and here we have the destruction of the temple. Do you see these great buildings? No, not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down. And is he talking about the temple, or is he talking about, himself? There's a whole lot that could be interpreted in all of that there. But I love where you lead us with the final moments he has, where it does give the sense of rebuilding and hope. It's not just stuck in this moment, but kind of sigh at the end.
Right. And you have to look for it because I think everything around it, as you suggested, speaks to a sort of ominous destruction, speaks to threat. The keep awake part is very anxiety producing. But I found this beautiful quote by the poet Robert Frost that I think sums up um, the nugget of this text. And Robert Frost said this in three words: I can sum up everything I've learned about life. It goes on. And I thought that is perfect, I think, for what's at the center of this message. Jesus is like, this is going to happen and
Yeah.
it's going to be hard and it is going to be heavy, but I am coming back. Um, so
Yeah.
keep awake, maybe keep your hope awake and keep those fires burning. This is not the end of the story.
Now, some translations, not the NRSV, will take that phrase keep awake and you'll see it translated as stay woke, which I feel like this is a word that some people hear and turn into all sorts of things. What would you say about that? What Jesus is calling us and just how the word woke has then become a thing in the world today.
Yeah, some people would say that that whole thing about being woke has been utterly destroyed in the mouths of the people. I think it speaks to awareness, paying attention, being mindful and intentional. Those might be better words to use right now. I think woke is a little maybe destroyed for our generation at the moment. Um, but I think intentionality, I think awareness, um, it's sort of where we are at this moment here in New York anyway, as we're having torrential rain over the last few days, and just coming out of very cold weather and stepping into what feels like spring. Um, there is a sense of destruction, and at the same time this sense of life. So I'm starting to see the tulips and the crocuses popping up from the earth, but you would miss it if you were just maybe focusing on the torrential rain that we had the last few days and the flood warnings that we're having. You would miss these little sparks of hope, and sparks of life. And I think that maybe what the keep awake and the stay woke is speaking to. Don't blink, you might miss it. Look
Mm,
for it so
mm.
you don't miss it. Maybe that's helpful for
I
folks.
think it's helpful in understanding what this text is saying and helpful in just what we're called to do in the world around us. Yeah, the word woke has become this thing that certain breeds of politicians like to use in certain ways. But at its core, it's what you're saying. It's that sense of, be attentive, keep your eyes open, be intentional, be aware. Do we want the opposite? Do we want to just fall asleep while the world goes to hell? No, we need to wake up to see it and then maybe do something about it. Whew, now I'm getting all sorts of thoughts on other news headlines of places we've seen going to hell, and certain countries just veto all the decisions to do so. Ooh, okay, okay.
All of the efforts at life, right, get vetoed. So that is the stones crumbling and falling down around us. But in the end, life is going to
Yeah,
win, right? In the end, the tulips are coming up again. We're not going to be able to stop the leaves from showing up on the trees and the new life getting born and babies entering the
yeah.
world, despite all the bombs being dropped
Mm,
and despite all the tens of thousands of lives that have been lost in many conflicts across the globe. Um, Other babies are going to get
yeah.
born. People will still get married. The flowers will still bloom, and the trees will still put forth their leaves. And I think that is a beautiful message in this moment in the world,
Yeah,
but also a beautiful message in the good news story of Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
Hmm. Well, back to this particular story of Jesus Christ. One of the ways you've already talked about it makes me think. So this text, people sometimes will turn it into this like way future prediction eschatology thing. I would think that's not as much of what's going on here because of the context within Mark, how he's going towards Jerusalem, Jesus' own death. But it does point out what I like to see as just two ways of looking at any sort of future prediction you see in the Bible, especially in the New Testament, where there can be a kind of a way of seeing it called preterism and then one called futurism. These are my favorite big seminary words, preterism, which is a Latin word that means like history. And the idea is, are these prophecies something that's going to happen a far, far off in the future, or is it something that's happening in the near historical context?
Can it be both?
Maybe, maybe. I mean,
Because I like the notion of the both and. I mean, it's something that I certainly want for the future when I think generations ahead for my child and your child. I want to know that life is a possibility, but I also want that right now
yeah,
for myself and you and our kids as well.
totally, totally.
Yeah, I like that.
I think
I like
scholars
that a lot.
would ask when Jesus says things like, they will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. Is that Jesus saying like
Oh,
it was Jesus thinking
gotcha.
in 4,000 years I'm coming back, or whatever number that we need to
Or
make up?
tomorrow.
Or yeah, or is that the Jesus on the cross was the Son of Man coming in glory, and it was a different coming than we anticipate? Or the stones crumbling, is that referring to his own death? Is that referring to the destruction of the temple that did happen within a generation, like he talks about here? So there's ways of putting historical parameters around things, which would keep it in the preterism column versus the whole
Right.
like millennialism, dispensationalism that likes to interpret all these things from Revelation as helicopters and whatnot, and just I'm going
Gotcha.
out of bounds of the text a little bit, but it made me
No,
see
I
those
like it.
categories, and your interpretation clearly rooted Jesus' remarks in kind of his historic context of he's talking about what's about to happen in the next few weeks in his life here, which I'm with you on that, but just putting on the seminary glasses to say that would be preterism talking right there.
Right. No, no, I appreciate that. But I also think because we're also reading this story in our own time that it's the other column
Yeah.
as well. And I'm just a both and kind of girl anyway. So and it's one of the things I love about the Bible is how it can speak to that
Yeah.
moment, but it also very powerfully
Oh,
and
for sure.
clearly speaks to our current moment and beyond that. So I love that it's got a past, present, and future sort of voice. But I know I keep wiggling out of the question that you're actually asking me.
We'll
I'm not gonna pick one or the
we'll
other.
wait till we get to like the juicy eschatological text till I really make you like show your cards on where you stand on eschatology, but we're good.
Right, right. Um, yeah.
I will say this. I learned the word preterism in undergrad at a very conservative pseudo dispensational school. And I was like, ooh, I like this idea. And then they were like, and this is the wrong view. And then I was like, no, I kind of like it even more.
Oh, they didn't like preterism.
Yeah,
Okay, all
not
right.
at my good old Cornerstone University alma mater. That's the undergrad. Seminary would have been a bit more walk the line like you're doing here, I think. But I went to, people might know Calvin College. That was the liberal school up the street from my college.
Yes. Okay, okay. And I certainly went to the to the school where it was like, sure, it could be that, or it could be this, or it could be, 27 other things. As long as you can make an argument to support
Yep,
it, go for
yep,
it.
yep.
Yeah.
Just shows that there are so many ways of seeing the same thing,
There really
and
is. There really
sometimes
is.
that's okay. Sometimes it's not okay if your interpretation leads to the, destruction or death or oppression of people. We've seen the Bible interpreted, but when you're
Oh,
interpreting the Bible and it's just still opening paths of love and justice, great. Let's have a little difference of opinion as long as at the end of the day we're working toward the same goal of heaven on earth, love and justice where it's needed. Well,
absolutely, absolutely. And I think this text is very much at its core about the flourishing of life. I mean, that's where Jesus is heading. Certainly, he is heading to his death and destruction, but it will be built up again, is what he's saying. And he never says that he's going to die without saying, and in 3 days I will be,
yeah, that Mark always gets us that little like it never leaves us
yeah,
hanging too much.
that's right. That's right. The final word is always
Yeah.
life.
So, how does it feel being a couple weeks out from Easter? There's this sermon we're talking about here, and then the next week we get a little Palm Sunday with a little bonus add on for the narrative lectionary, and then we're there, Easter Sunday. We are moments away. What are you thinking, feeling a couple weeks out?
I'm trying to pace myself. Definitely trying to not pack my schedule full of meetings and things so that I've got space to think and plan and write. And of course, everyone's like, "Hey, you want to have coffee?" I'm like, "I can have coffee in April." Because there's that saying about Easter's here, Christ is risen, and the clergy are dead.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to be intentional so that I too have a Lent journey and a Holy Week and Easter experience. So I'm feeling a little better. I think having gotten a lot of my sermon titles decided and a little bit of sketching out what things are going to look like, we've pretty much gotten Holy Week together, and I'm speaking with one of our guest speakers actually after I talk to you. So, once you get all those sort of pieces connected and settled, I think it's easier to move on. But, it's a marathon. Holy Week is a marathon. I'm certainly excited to be doing it in community with you and the other clergy team. I think that is the great gift of being at a church like Riverside is that you have colleagues to help carry the load together, to bounce ideas off. And for those who aren't in a situation like that, I encourage you to speak with elders in your church or clergy colleagues across the country. You really don't want to do Lent, Holy Week, and Easter without a network of support. But I'm feeling good. I'm really excited about our love poured out theme. I think that it has been a really wonderful um, space for people to crawl inside this Lent and think about. Um, I think we've gotten at some good connection and theological conversation because of it. And we came up with that as a team. So I'm just really proud of and grateful for um, our clergy team. It's a really special group, and I love working with them.
I completely agree. Not just because I'm one of them, but I also love all of our colleagues as well. We're having a lot of
Yeah,
fun these days, and I think everyone
we
can
are.
see that and feel that in just the
Yep.
energy in what we're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's translating also to an invitation to a deeper connection with God for the members of the church as well. And that, of course, just makes my heart
Yeah.
very happy that people are finding their walk with God deepened and
Yeah.
strengthened.
I love
It's
it. I love it. Well, that's what we're. I'm glad we have that with our space. I hope that, like you said, for others as well. And it's not too late if you're watching, listening to this, and you're like, "I've been doing it all alone." I mean, leave a comment. That's one way of connecting in some extent. But seriously, you have people in your church, elders, deacons, whatever your branch of Christianity calls them. They're there, and then you can also reach out to other clergy across the street, across the country. I guarantee you will find someone who wants to just sit with you and go, oh yeah, we can, this is tough, but we're going to run it together now, and that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's also the opportunity, like we're doing. We do open Bible studies on Sunday morning, and to be in that space, I'm in that space after I've already written the sermon, but it is still a blessing to sit with folks and hear what they think about a text, to have what you have landed on be confirmed, or to have your notions about a text expanded, and to sit there and go, oh man, oh, I wish I'd put that in there. But next time. It's just great to be in community talking about these stories. There's just nothing else
Yeah.
like it. It's a
I
wonderful
mean, come
gift.
on, that's a good spot for last minute sermon edits. Be like, ooh, I'm going to totally work that in right there.
Yes, totally.
I'm not writing my sermon day of, everybody. No.
No.
Oh, well, all of this, we could just rant about liturgical seasons and sermon writing and all sorts of things and clergy colleagues and the need. More on that. That'll be peppered in throughout. But for now, go read this whole text. It's fantastic. I mean, well, at least I think the way you're inviting us to see it really makes it fantastic. So open up to Mark chapter 13. As always, you can join us for open Bible study. If you're in the New York area, there's a class that happens in the building. If you're not in the New York area or just can't make it to the building, we gather on Zoom as well. That's at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Join us for worship. Worship starts at 11. Special music at 10:30. Virtual coffee hour after. Whew, this is just come on Sunday and stick around in the room or online. We
It's
got something
good.
for
It's
you,
good.
as we always do, and it's going to be great. We will see what happens, and we'll talk more about Palm Sunday next week.